and welcome back to my vlog series, The Baby Bubble. Now, if you all watched last week's video, I just want to say a massive thank you so much for taking the time to view, share, like, put love out on that video, because it is really hard to talk about how you feel and the not normal side of what you expect motherhood to be like. I just want to say I honestly am so grateful for everybody, for everyone's support, and I'm so glad that the first video went down really well. And of course it means I will continue this series. A lot of people said it actually really helped, and that's the point of these videos. These videos are not to scare you, they are not to say that that's necessarily going to happen to you, but it's a real life. This is what's happened, it's how I'm feeling, and this next video is basically now the follow-on from that one. This is all about having a baby during a pandemic and how that massively affected my pregnancy, my birth, and also how it's affected my maternity, because of course it is still continuing at the minute and it's going to be in our lives for probably quite some time. So let's go on to this next video and let's begin. Of course, grab yourself a cup of tea, it's going to be a long one. Okay, so I'm going to start with obviously my pregnancy and how that was affected. I'm not even going to go into details on what COVID is, the coronavirus. I'm not even going to, it's affected everybody all over the world. Everybody has been affected, not just pregnant people, everybody. Our lives have been changed dramatically, so that's all I'm going to say on what coronavirus is, because we all know. We all know what's going on. So obviously in the UK, we went into our first official lockdown as a nation in March. I found out I was pregnant about 2 weeks before we were put into our first lockdown. Obviously when I found out I was pregnant, it was the most amazing thing ever. You know, you start getting these things in your head, you're like, oh, I can't wait for scans, I can't wait to go shopping, I can't wait to spend time with my mum, you know, this is a really special time for us. Me and Adam were just over the moon that after all these failed attempts of fertility treatment and the waiting and the trying and the pain and the heartbreak and everything that came with trying for a baby on our journey, to then find out we were pregnant was this massive, like, wow, it's finally our turn. We're going to finally have this opportunity to have an amazing experience, amazing baby, the lot. And that's of course, I think that's normal. I think every expectant parent, expectant mother thinks that that's, you know, that's what they want, and that's completely normal. And the people that have had it, you know, you're really lucky, because I haven't had any of what people are saying. So obviously, yes, we went into our first official lockdown. I had to not go to work because pregnant women were classified as the vulnerable category. And it was, at first, it wasn't too bad. You know, I was at home, I was in my first trimester, so for me, I got to rest quite a lot during that first trimester. I was very lucky, I didn't have any sickness or anything like that, but I got to give my body the rest that I think it needed, because I was so anxious and so worried during my pregnancy about miscarrying, because I've had a previous loss. I've been, you know, I've had a few like scares and wobbles and things in my health. We've been going through fertility treatments, we found out that had failed. So for me, it didn't quite sink in I was properly pregnant yet. So I think I needed them 12 weeks to kind of just ground myself, get myself realising this is happening, you're having a baby, and just get to that 12-week mark, because that's the safety mark that I think everybody wants to go down, is that 12-week. And when you've hit that 12 weeks, you'll know how it feels. It is like a little weight has been lifted off your shoulders, like I've made it to that first milestone. But that never goes away. That anxiety, I'm sorry, has never gone away from me, and it still hasn't. I have him now, and I still count down to milestones to see that everything's going to be okay. But it was tough. Those first 12 weeks were very tough. We were very lucky that obviously I found out in the March, so we just started to get that really nice weather in like April, May time. We'd had our like London summer, and it was lovely. It was really nice. I got to read books and everything was good. I was happy, I was content. I was gutted I couldn't see my mum and dad, obviously, because at that point the social bubbles weren't introduced, so I couldn't form a bubble with them. I hadn't seen them for the first 3 months. So that then took us to March, April, May, June. So that took us to June. Now I can't remember exactly when we came out of our first lockdown, like when it got lifted to be in. It was just tough. Those first 12 weeks were tough. So obviously in between those 12 weeks I had scans done. So for me, my first scan I had at 6 weeks, because I was under the fertility treatment team. I had to have them scans done just to confirm that I had a viable baby there. Obviously all good, all great. Adam was allowed to that appointment. It was just before COVID, like they stopped people going to scans. It was great. We then had our 8-week scan, which Adam was not allowed to. So this was the start for us of when our pregnancy journey went from being this really high and being really excited to just starting to become quite draining, quite upsetting. You know, we kind of realised at that 8-week scan that things weren't going to be normal, and obviously the hospitals and things were getting stricter and stricter and stricter on that, what they would allow, what they wouldn't allow. So at this point Adam wasn't even allowed to come in the waiting room. He wasn't allowed to scan. Nothing. I wasn't allowed to FaceTime him. I wasn't allowed to video record any of the scan. I was allowed to thankfully take a picture, because they wouldn't give me a printout until 12 weeks, because obviously I had been under the fertility team. So I was really lucky. I took a picture of the screen. The sonographer said, look, take a picture, I won't say anything. So that was really nice. You know, I got to see the baby, and I'd seen the baby's heartbeat, and they developed and everything like that, and that was wonderful for both me and Adam. Still very anxious. I was always longing, going to a scan thinking something's going to be wrong. There's going to be something, they're going to tell me something horrible, there's something's going to be wrong with the baby, I'm going to be struggling, like, oh my god, what if, you know, I lose the baby, blah blah blah. You know, a lot of those anxious feelings just kept creeping up and up and up, and they were getting worse and worse and worse throughout my pregnancy. We then had our 12-week scan. Once you get to that 12-week mark, you know, the sonographers are like, well done, you've got to this 12 weeks, it's great, it's good, like pretty good. That means you've got, your chances of losing this baby is dropping, this is great, you should be happy, you should be excited. And it reassured me, don't get me wrong, for about 10-15 minutes. Once I came out of that scan, I was over the moon. I was happy. I was just like, oh my god, we're having a baby, this is amazing. And you could see him like as a little person on the screen, and it was wonderful. It really, really was. But again, Adam wasn't allowed to that scan. He wasn't allowed to any of the doctor's appointments that I had after that scan. Nothing. I hadn't met my midwife at this point. Everything was done over the telephone, obviously, because of COVID. And that was really tough. I didn't actually meet my midwife until I was about 20 weeks pregnant, I believe. I'm not sure if that's normal, but yeah, I didn't meet any midwives beforehand, and even then I didn't have the same midwife. I had different midwives throughout my journey. So again, we got to that 12-week mark. That's it. It's a safety bit. You should be happy. You should be over the moon. And we were, and I was, and I was just overjoyed and like, we've done it. I've got a baby. I'm so excited. And that just disappeared within like hours. I was sitting there looking like every little problem, every like cramp, if I had any spotting, if, you know, I didn't feel right, or my boobs started to change, or I changed, and I was Googling everything. And that's obviously a big no-no. Anyone who struggles with their anxiety, mental health, or anything, like any pregnant, expectant mother, just don't bother with Google, please. I know I say it at times, and I'm guilty of doing it myself, and I'm always getting told off for doing it, because Google is just basically a place to scare you. Sometimes it gives you great advice and it does help, but most of the time you just either read horror stories or a lot of negativity, or you're putting a symptom that you're having and then something really horrible comes up that could be linked to it. And I found I was doing that a lot during my pregnancy, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And if you look through my history on my Google, I can imagine the things I was Googling at like 12, 13 weeks, just panicking about anything and everything. So again, I was still in lockdown. I don't think I saw my family at this point. I was still, you know, at home. I believe it got to about 16 weeks was when I could see my family, because I know it was before my 20-week scan. So obviously at that point it became, you could be outside in people's gardens. And I remember going to my mum and dad's. I'd got a little bit of a bump, and obviously this is the first time they've seen me since having a baby. And, you know, I was really content. Once it got past that 12 weeks, I definitely would say the second trimester for me became the honeymoon phase, and I did have a honeymoon phase. I didn't have any nausea, I didn't feel unwell, I didn't feel really tired, I felt really like a lot of energy, very happy, very positive. I was excited. I began to, relax a lot more when I was in my second trimester, and that's what you want. They say the second trimester is the honeymoon phase of your pregnancy. You start to the worries start to go down a little bit more, you'd hope, and then it's a lot more fun. And that's normally in that period where, from the 20-week mark, that expectant mums tend to go shopping. You spend a lot of time with your family. You start thinking about a baby shower if you're having a baby shower. You're excited about everything that's going to be coming. You're ordering nursery bits, you're going shopping for baby clothes, people are giving you gifts and things, and you want to show your bump off to the world because you're so excited like we were. And obviously I couldn't. That was all taken away, everything. I got to spend the time with my mum that I wanted, which was great, and I'm just thankful for I have my mum. It obviously kept progressing throughout my pregnancy, and my mental health still kept changing. I was getting more and more worried about obviously the 20-week scan and how baby was going to be, and that obviously turned out fine. He was fine, there was no issues, but again, still worrying. My head just could not shake the fact that I was having a baby, and I just couldn't settle with the fact that everything is okay, which I think is a big problem for me now, because everything went so well through my pregnancy. I had a healthy, happy pregnancy. Nothing went wrong in my pregnancy. So I think for me, that hadn't helped, because I expected to have a baby that did exactly the same, followed suit, had a lovely, healthy pregnancy and a nice, happy baby. It didn't turn out that way. So obviously the year kept going on. I was, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, heavily pregnant, started getting tired, everything like that. And these are when the restrictions in the summer actually fully died down. We were allowed to go see friends and family with a certain amount of groups. You would go outdoors, indoors, to your social bubble. Social bubbles started to become a thing. You could form a bubble with a household. At that point, again, it still wasn't, you couldn't form a household if you had a baby under 1. It was still quite strict criteria. But that was it. We were having a good time, and in that moment me and Adam were we're going to book a baby moon. We wanted to have a baby moon, but we couldn't go away obviously because of COVID. We couldn't travel, so for us we were do you know what, we're going to do some fun bits around town. We went to Cheshunt Adventures, Legoland. I couldn't go on any rides or anything, but it was just nice to get out and do something fun and just enjoy some time together before the baby comes, and before everything would probably get locked down again, because we all knew it was coming. And then it impacted everything. And then I had my baby shower. My baby shower was great. I could have my family there, and that was everything I could possibly want. It was lovely. We did it social distance, put on a little spread, and it was just such a lovely, lovely day. And I was so happy, and I was so full of this love and excitement to have this baby. And this is in the summer, so I was still really hopeful that by November we'd be in some form of normality and that everything would be okay. But as the months started to get closer and closer and closer to having William, it kind of become a lot more real a lot quickly that things aren't going to be normal when you have a baby during a pandemic. Everything started to get locked back down again. The anxiety, the fear of having to do it on your own. I've done everything else on my own, doctors, scans, nothing. Adam's not been there for any of it, and he's had to sit in the car for any appointments and then come out and listen to me talk about what's happened, and he's not been able to hear our baby's heartbeat, he's not been able to see our baby. So for him, it must have really impacted him, especially for me. I got to still do all these things, but to do it alone, especially when you are somebody who suffers with anxiety and you're completely overwhelmed by this sense of being parents, you become parents. I think that's why for somebody like Adam, it must be hard for him to form a connection towards this baby that's inside of me, because at this present minute, he hasn't been able to do any of this. He's just been given pictures that I've been able to give him and updates of what I'm telling him. That was it. So it got to, in my 30-week mark, we did our own DIY photo shoot, and we booked in for a 4D scan. So we booked into our 4D scan. That was the most amazing thing ever, and I was so happy and lucky that at that point I was allowed to have 2 people come with me. So Adam had finally been able to come to a scan with me that was not from the NHS, and my mum could also attend. So I was finally allowed, and I felt like at that moment things felt normal. We were allowed to listen to the baby's heartbeat. We could see him moving around, and it was 4D, so he was this perfect little person. And it was just so much love in that moment. You're thinking, oh my God, this is real. And it must have sunk in at that minute with Adam that we're having a little boy, we're having a baby. He's definitely coming. It won't be long. And that was probably the one of the best moments of our pregnancy, because that was the only time that Adam was allowed to be there, and that we were all allowed to be a family for that one moment and enjoy the pregnancy. It was also, we were trying to get our nurseries together during COVID, during this pandemic, and everything was ordered online. You couldn't go to a shop and view items. You couldn't go and browse baby clothes. I couldn't go and look at a cot and look at nursery decor. I had to just go with whatever was on the internet. And that, for me, impacted me more than what I thought it would. I thought I'd be okay with it, shop online, get it delivered, less hassle. But it's only when things started to reopen up and we were starting to go out into like shops and, look at baby bits, that I realised, I've missed out on all of this. I didn't get the option to go and push my pushchair around a shop and test it out. I didn't get to go and look at a cot and, look at blankets and decor and think I really want that or anything. I just had to go with whatever was there and whatever I had and reviews online. So I felt like I missed out quite a lot, and I know that's not really massive in the grand scheme of things. This is a pandemic at the end of the day, but it really did affect me. I didn't get any of that time with my mum. You go shopping, have a coffee, talk about my pregnancy face to face, see my bump, feel baby move. They didn't get to do any of that with me, and that broke my heart, because I'd waited so long for this baby and so long to be pregnant that I kind of just felt like I was Holly on my own. I was just basically having a baby. I was pregnant, and no one else could enjoy it. So yeah, deep down, I think that's probably something that has affected me probably more than I think it could have done. It came closer again. I keep saying this, it came closer and closer to the date, and we kept getting hopeful, kept thinking, yeah, that's all good. By November, it's going to be back to normal. Me and Adam, we'll be able to have this baby how we want to. It'd be nice. He'd be there with me the whole time. And it then dwindled to us about a couple of weeks before he arrived. It was when we had a little scare. William had decided that he was going to try and attempt to come early, and I was worried. I had to go into triage, I had to go into hospital. Adam was not allowed in with me at all, so he was having to wait for me to basically tell them what was happening with his baby. And that was hard. Like, I thought in that moment I'd be really panicky and scared, and I was worrying about what would happen. It was so early. He was like 20 something weeks, and I was thinking, if he comes now, like, he could survive, but he would be in ICU for a long time, and that means Adam wouldn't be able to see him at all, and I couldn't bear that. I couldn't handle it. But thankfully they stopped it. He didn't come early. He stayed put. So we were like, that's all good, he can stay there then. But these little things just add up, and anyone else who's pregnant during this pandemic, you will know how it feels when you go into a hospital when you've got an issue and you want your partner to be there holding your hand. Because if they ever come around and say bad news, I genuinely don't know what I would have done without Adam. Like, if they had turned around and said to me, like, there's something wrong with the baby, and Adam isn't there, I generally just, I don't know what I would have done in that moment, because he's their dad, he's this baby's dad, and that the fact that I can go in but he can't, it would really confuse me. And the rules started to get more and more confusing. Like, I could go to the pub and see my friends, but my husband couldn't come into a scan room with me and watch our baby on a screen, or come into an appointment with me, even though we're in the same household. And we could still keep the 2 metre distance away from our GP and our nurses and midwives. And it got so much. It got to a point I broke down. I was like, I don't understand how I can't have him with me, and the fact that we're preparing for the idea that he might not even be able to be at the birth of our child, but I can still go to a pub, I can meet other people, I can go out, I can go to the shop and have people all around me not keeping 2 metre distance, but my husband, who lives with me, is the father of my child, cannot be at my hospital appointments. And that's something I think that should have been looked at a lot sooner. The government should have really looked at this prior, because it's affected so many people. I'm very lucky that I was a lot stronger in my pregnancy than I was after having a baby. So during my pregnancy, I was like, no, that's fine. I will take every information I can, pass it to my husband. But for somebody who has issues with their pregnancy, or they're constantly in and out of hospital, I generally feel their pain. I feel so sorry for them, because you are doing it alone. You are completely on your own. And even the doctors, the midwives and nurses, they're looking after you, and they really, really are. You still get this feeling inside of feeling that you are all on your own. People just aren't, the government haven't looked after you. They haven't helped. They've not given you any indication of how they can help you. And that's something that I still now can't get my head around, as to why they haven't looked at the pregnancy and birth a little bit closer and thought, well, actually, if you're in the same household, you live with your partner, if they've not got COVID, you get tested, why can they not be there? But that is just how the government have done it, unfortunately. So birth of our baby came. I was induced, and my waters are broken prior. I had to go in on my own for that, but we came home for 24 hours so that I didn't have to be on my own in hospital. I had the option of staying there, but I said, no, do you know what, I'm just going to go home, do these 24 hours and then come back. So that was fine. Thankfully, because I was being induced as well, girls, if you are having a baby, this is a good fact. If you're being induced, then your partner is allowed to be with you. Well, my hospital, anyway. So Adam was allowed to stay with me from the point I was induced, and thankfully, because I had already started to dilate and I didn't need to go home or anything, they said, right, you can stay. You guys can both stay. We're going to take you down to labour ward now, get you on the drip, and hopefully have this baby in the next couple of days. So me and Adam got to stay together throughout the whole thing, so I'm so grateful. We were only allowed to stay by about 10-15 minutes. If they had said to Adam he had to go, then I got taken down, he would have come back, obviously. But the hospital just let him stay and said, no, that's fine, you can stay. So my birth experience was incredible. You've all seen, I hope, my birth, what happened in my birth, my positive birth story. Everything was great, and obviously the negativity afterwards, that affected me massively. But the point of this video is mainly to talk about how having a baby in a pandemic really probably started where my mental health started to drop, and it's also a topic that most mums, expectant mums, need to hear, because it is worrying and it is scary. But all I can say is I learned a lot about myself during this pandemic while I was pregnant. I learned that I am strong, I am capable of the change that's coming in my body. You know, I've done all the appointments on my own. I don't need to rely on anybody for anything that I did during my pregnancy. You know, I didn't get all the things I wanted. I couldn't go on a lovely baby moon that I wanted. You know, we didn't get a party or proper baby shower that we wanted. We had to do quite an intimate, close one at home. Obviously, this then affected us afterwards. So William has not met everybody in my family or Adam's family. We've had to keep it again very intimate of who's been able to meet him and who hasn't. I've still got friends that haven't been able to meet him, hold him, or if they have seen him, it's from a distance. And that's really sad that we've got to that point that William is now 10 weeks old, so he's nearly coming up, you know, soon enough he'll be 3 months old, and my family have still not been able to meet him. And that breaks my heart, because again, you longed for this, you've longed to have a baby, and I still at this present moment just feel alone. I feel so lonely and alone, even though I'm lucky now. I've got my support up with my mum and dad because I had an operation and I've got a baby under 1. You know, I've got them there, so I can see them whenever I want to, and I'm happy and relaxed with that. I love that. but I miss not being able to go out and like take William to the shops and go take William for a coffee with my friends and go to soft plays with my friends and meet other mums, antenatal classes, you know, everything was cancelled, all of it. Any face-to-face appointments or meeting other people was completely cancelled during that pregnancy. And it broke my heart. It has broken my heart, and I generally feel for any other mum who has gone through it at the same time we did, because it is awful, it is horrible, the idea that you are alone throughout this. And I think that's okay to feel that you are alone, and just make sure, you know, you do talk to your partners, your GP, your nurses, your midwives, and if you are starting to feel alone and sad and you're not quite sure how you feel, just tell them how you are feeling, and they will definitely guide you in the right direction, because you'd rather catch these emotions now before having a baby, because having a baby is such a different experience and it is so strange and surreal that when you put it on top of a pandemic, it makes everything so much bigger. Every little thing becomes massive and you feel like, oh my god, I can't do this, I can't do that, and I'm alone and my partner's not there. And it starts to really get into your head that, you know, things are going to go wrong and no one's going to be there for you. But people are. The midwives and nurses, the doctors, they're all there for you, and you will have your partner there. Don't ever think your partner won't be there. They will be there. They will stand by your side while you're having your baby. You will not be alone. You're going to be absolutely fine. You're going to nail this. And I wish that was something that I had seen, obviously, prior to having William, because I went into hospital worrying that I was going to be doing this completely solo. So I'm just so grateful that during this pandemic I have been very fortunate to have Adam at the birth of my baby, and I do feel for any of those mothers who haven't or have been taken away from their babies if their babies are poorly because of COVID. And that's just something that I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown. Obviously my maternity has completely been messed up. I've missed out on the first 3 months of being able to go out and enjoy him, which has not helped the postnatal depression. You know, I'm trapped in the same 4 walls. I feel like William is sometimes feeling that. He's feeling that, you know, we're in the same place. He's getting bored. I'm getting really bored of being in the same place. It was all great at first, watching Netflix, but now I just want to go out and see other mums, see my friends, you know, go for a coffee with my mum outside of a house, or go and see my friends that I miss at work and go and have a cup of coffee with them without feeling like it's illegal and feeling like I can't go and see them or tug them or let anybody touch or hold William. I really feel like he's going to miss out, and if it keeps going as it is, I'm supposed to be going back to work in July, and I don't feel like I'm going to get anything done with him before then. I generally don't think our life is going to go back to any form of normality before July. And even if it does, perhaps I might get 1 month of being able to take him out and about. I've got a holiday booked during this year that I don't think is going to happen, and that would be his first family holiday that we can't take him on, and I'm not going to be able to take him when I go back to work. So it's really tough, and I'm not just saying this like it's big out of proportion. Oh, you know, you're the only person in the world who's gone through it. I'm not. There's hundreds and thousands of people, pregnant women, who are going through this. But it definitely is something that can start postnatal depression, I think, and it's something that can start the thing of a negative mindset. So I think it's something that has to be spoken about, and it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel anxious, scared of what's coming and everything, but it is going to be okay. And if I could tell myself that when I was earlier into my pregnancy, and remind myself that you don't need to necessarily have the experience you want, because my pregnancy was great, it was healthy, it was happy, and that should be more important than anything. But in my mindset, I'd worked myself up to think, like motherhood, that it was going to be something different, and it ended up being something completely different. So just don't, that expectation you've got in your brain, be prepared that it may not necessarily be what you expect, and it's not going to be the same as somebody else's journey. My pregnancy is probably different to somebody else. Like, whoever is watching this, if you are pregnant, your pregnancy is probably so much different to my pregnancy. But all in all, having a baby in a pandemic, we're all the same. We're all in the same situation. We've all got to get this baby out some way, regardless of how that baby is born. We're all buying clothes for our baby. We're all trying to get like nurseries together, or buying bits and pieces, and financially trying to balance everything, thinking, how are we going to do this? What if we lose our jobs during this pandemic? What if we do this? But it's going to be okay. It will be okay. You will get through this, and we are getting through it. We are, you know, we're nearly 3 months in, and we're doing so well. You know, we're working out our finances. You know, we've put money away for savings to cover maternity, and you know, we thought of these things before the pandemic even started. But we're just very lucky that we put these things into place before we had him. The next stage for us is obviously trying to figure out me going back to work. You know, we're looking to move house as well this year, so we're trying to budget for that. So there's a lot of stresses going on in between this pandemic, and I'm not the only person doing it. I keep saying all these other women are going through it, and some are going through it worse than what I am. But it's just something to openly talk about and just say, you know, it's affected me. It affected me massively, COVID. Mentally, physically. My life changed dramatically during COVID, but ultimately it also gave me a massive positive. I grew and nurtured this baby boy that I've currently got, and he's the absolute world to me. He is my world. So it grew me and my husband together. You know, we spent a lot of time together. We got to enjoy each other's company before he came. We weren't stressed out with our normal everyday lives, like running back and forth between people, and it gave us that chance to be close and to be together. And they're memories that I think we're always going to keep. And I think whoever's watching this as well, you've probably got memories during this pandemic that you don't even know. And if you have kids and you're watching this, they've probably got memories from this pandemic that they're going to remember for the rest of their life. There's going to be times where you've done painting with them, or you've built a fort indoors. They're going to remember these things. So it's kind of it's scary and it's worrying, but you've also got to make it a positive and think these could potentially be memories that my child, my family, we're all going to remember for the rest of our lives. Like, I'm never going to forget this year, even with COVID. This was the year I grew my baby. This is the year I gave birth to my baby, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy that that is what I've done. I accomplished that. That is a goal that I wanted. And it's just unfortunate it ran at the same time as a global pandemic, didn't it, really? But yeah, that's really it. I don't really know much to say on the COVID situation. I'm not going to say any more. But if you're watching it, it's kind of a ramble again. But these videos are supposed to be just like having a cup of tea and a catch up with your friend. The next video, you know, I will film in a couple of days and keep sharing with you everything that I'm doing, and with William and how he's adapting and changing and how I'm changing. Like, on the mental front, mental health side, I am doing really, really well. I've been in touch with my mental health nurse. They've got a little plan in place for me, and I feel like that's going to be really helpful. And I feel like I'm getting on the mend. I have moments, I have wobbles still. I have quite a lot of tears. I'm still really struggling with his colic. I'm still struggling with a lot of things at the minute that I'm not necessarily putting out there. I've tried to take a little bit of a step back from social media for a few days just to have a little break, which I think is needed. You need to have a break from social media every now and again. But I just thought I'd pop on, especially because, you know, this is what's going on in our life at the minute. It's now, I think, the new normal for us now, until hopefully the vaccines do what they need to do and we could start having bit more of a normality and start going back out and play dates and meet friends and cuddle family. But that's what it is. Unfortunately, we can't change it. All we can do is take this as a big positive and start making memories and remembering the good things we did during lockdowns, and that your pregnancy is an amazing thing without the pandemic. You don't need to have all the things that we obviously assume is going to happen during a pregnancy. You can enjoy and have these wonderful memories locked up basically. So I hope this video is a good one. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did, comment below, and obviously share away, because I'd love this series to become a little bit more of a normality and new thing on my channel. So I'll be back in a couple of days. I will report back with another topic. So let me know if there's any topics you want me to talk about. I think the next one I'll probably do is my body change, how that has affected me, what I've changed from and now, and what my postpartum C-section recovery has been like, because that's a topic that I think a lot of people who are watching this are probably thinking, I just want to know what it's going to be like to have a baby and how I'm going to feel body wise. So that's the next video. I will see you all in the next one.